what are the budgetary consequences of all this?
Well, I think there was definitely, some concern this week as people watch the 10-year, the yield on the 10-year treasury in the tradable markets, popped up to 3.9 and potentially pierced, 4% before settling back down. When you take a look at the interest rate forecasts that the Congressional Budget Office used to develop their projections of spending and revenues for this year and debt and deficits, the interest rates, that they projected, they didn't hit 3.8, interest rates on Treasury until like 10 years from now. And we're already there. And we're certainly not going back down anytime soon. So you're obviously going to see net interest costs rise significantly above what the Congressional Budget Office has projected. And I think, that's obviously a concern for lawmakers and for taxpayers alike, because net interest, that's money we owe and nothing that we get for it, right? We're not building bridges with that money. We're not providing education or transfer payments or Social Security benefits or healthcare with that money. That's just debt service. And it doesn't, provide any kind of productive capacity here. It doesn't increase our productive capacity at all here in the United States. So, already net interest was one of the fastest growing categories in the federal budget. And even more so now that interest rates are rising.
Yeah, that's one of the real vulnerabilities of the budget is interest rates, because, we've taken on, as you mentioned, we've taken on a huge amount of debt. And,
right.
I was looking at some numbers comparing 30 years ago in 1992, where we were, and when the Concord Coalition started, and this year, and then looking at the projection 30 years from now. One of the most striking things is that interest number that you mentioned, net interest. It was 3.1% of GDP at a really, really high. That's very high by historical standards in 1992. That's one of the reasons people were so worried about the debt. And now the debt is much, much higher than it was now, not just in nominal terms, but as a percentage of the economy, it's more than twice what it was then. And yet interest costs on the debt have actually come down as a percentage to about 1.6% of GDP. So people, we've gotten an enormous break by having low interest rates. Well, now the party is over,
right?
And interest rates are headed back up. So,
the chickens come home to roost.
Yeah, and we've run up all that debt. That huge amount of debt that we've run up is no longer going to be rolled over. It's still lower interest rates than it was, say, in 92. But just the sheer volume of debt makes it is so large that by 30 years from now, you don't have to have interest rates go up any more than they are right now, basically, to produce debt to interest costs at around 7.5% of GDP, which is astronomical by historical standards.